Hello, and welcome to the Helping Friendly podcast on tour and live coming at you here on Tuesday, December 21st, the winter equinox, the shortest day of the year. As someone posted on Twitter, the light is growing brighter now.
Every day is 24 hours long. Don't believe the myth.
Well, the reality is the sun does set a little bit earlier, and comes up a little bit later. I love this day of the year. It just feels like we've survived and we're now at a turning point and it only gets brighter from here on out. But then you're going to have to deal with daylight savings that's going to happen in early March, and that's just going to set the whole thing back all over again.
I haven't even figured out how we're going to get through New Year's. Don't just get us into March. Jeez.
All right, I'm just going to take it one day at a time.
Exactly.
I will say, and we'll talk about this in a second, but I am going to be doing it comfortably and in style. My name is Brian Brinkman. I'm a producer here at Osiris Media, and I'm here with my close friends, Megan and Jonathan. How are you guys doing?
I'm cold because I don't have a plush robe.
Yeah, we're all just jealous of your robe, Brian. It's so unbelievable.
This is my first Christmas present of the year, and it we'll tell you about it here. It is. I don't know anyone that can top this. This is a huge shout out to my brother, as well as one of our presenting sponsors, Section 119, which we'll talk about here in a second. But I'm really excited to hang with you guys. I hope that we've been talking for the better part of the month of December, which, as is wont in these times, has been interesting and filled with unknowns and terrifying moments and moments of clarity. But we're here. We're still doing it. We're talking about Phish. We're kind of starting to make our final loop here towards the end of this live series as we move towards what will hopefully be a 4-night run at Madison Square Garden to close out 2021 and send us into what will certainly be the greatest year of our lives, 2022. I don't know that.
It'll definitely be the next year.
It will be the next year of our lives. And today's episode is going to focus on MSG as a venue, as a place, and as a state of mind. We're going to dive deep into some of the MSG shows that we haven't covered through our New Year's run of the last couple of weeks. We'll talk a little bit about 96, talk a bit about 09, talk a bit about the Baker's Dozen. We're going to see if there's any other venues that kind of stack up to MSG, and we're each going to reveal, maybe we already have, but we're each going to reveal our favorite show in Madison Square Garden history. Is that right, guys? Did I get everything correct today?
I didn't do the reading. I don't know. Sounds good, though.
I
think that's everything. Yeah.
We got the intro done. We need to shout out some of our friends and sponsors. Who do we have talking about our first presenting sponsor?
Yeah, that's
I think it's
me.
you, Meg. That's you.
It is me. And I'm so excited because our first presenting sponsor is Shift Genuine Cannabis, and they brought HFPod back. They brought us back to cover all the shows over summer, fall tour, and you know what goes great with tour, right? Cannabis.
I do. Yeah. Yes, it does.
So the Osiris team had a chance to visit the Shift Ranch outside of Telluride and take the tour. And I've heard it was a very amazing experience in a lot of ways. And I've heard RJ had a bit of like a man crush on one of the scientists there. And the takeaway that they've talked about is the care and attention to detail that Shift puts into growing their flower. The facility was beautifully high tech and every detail was thoughtful. They even got a chance to meet their on-site scientist and hear about tissue culture and advanced propagation techniques, which play a huge role in plant health and quality. And they saw firsthand the billions of data points on growing and environmental conditions that Shift collects and analyzes to make sure the bud that you get is consistent, pure, and of the highest quality. So Shift sells flower, pre-rolls, cartridges, and concentrates. So please visit shiftcannabis.com to learn more.
Meg, you did such a great job delivering the shift ad read. That was amazing. I think that might have been your first shift ad read of the season. That was excellent.
It was. I was a little nervous.
We're gonna have to get them to take you out there so you can
I want
do
a
all
tour
that directly firsthand. Because it was rad and cool and mad data points and things. But
I like mad data points.
Yeah, it was sciencey as hell, and also we had fun. But
There was
speaking of
karaoke to be
firsthand,
had.
there was. Speaking of firsthand,
I mean,
Brian
I don't
is-
even know if
could
you guys want to see me
testify.
do karaoke because it's kind of amazing.
Well, I can tell you that not everybody was amazing at karaoke, but Brian was. Brian was.
I had fun.
But
I become a different person when the karaoke mic is in hand.
Love that. Maybe you can karaoke in that robe. That would be really special.
Karaoke in this robe.
Tell us about the robe, Brian.
So this robe, this is, like I said, this is my first Christmas present, and this comes from our other presenting sponsor, Section 119. We want to shout out. They are in large part the reason why this show is happening. This robe, it is so comfortable. It's got donut logos all over it. It's got a hood. Check this thing out. Oh, like
it's amazing.
I'm just
all encompassing.
It really is. It's got pockets as well. It's super snug. I'm just going to lie on my couch for basically the next week and a half in anticipation of Phish playing at MSG. I'm going to watch Christmas movies. I'm going to eat food. And when Phish comes on stage, I'm still going to be wearing this robe, and I'm going to be comfortable. I'm going to be cozy. I'm going to be warm. My heating could go out. Don't care. I got this robe. Everything is perfect.
It's made for couch tour. It really is.
It's really, I mean, this is like I'm wearing a blanket. It's really, really amazing.
What's great with couch tour is the set break shower is one of my favorite things, and that's where the robe really comes in clutch. Because they give you just enough time. You can get up there, you get all clean, you're ready for bed, but you still got another set, and then you can wrap yourself up in that robe.
That is a pro move right there.
It really is. And they talk about how like being there's no substitute for being there, but like over the last year and a half, couch tour has really taught me I can get delivery food midway through the first set. Anything I want to drink, anything else I want to eat, it's right there. I got no lines for the bathroom. Jonathan has just revealed the set break shower followed by the robe wear that I can just hang out with. This is good stuff. So Section 119, back to our presenting sponsor here. They were started by a couple of huge fans who wanted more than a t-shirt, and this is more than a t-shirt, to show their appreciation for our favorite bands. It's turned into a huge line of unique apparel for both Phish as well as Grateful Dead fans. Right now, they are running their biggest promo ever. You can score up to 30% off for the holidays. Visit Section 119 and check them out. You can find cool gifts for your wife, your husband, your brother, your dad. I mean, whose dad, brother, wife, husband, just keep going down the line, doesn't want a hoodie like this. Or you can treat yourself. Section119.com. And on your way out, please let them know that we at the Helping Friendly podcast sent you. Take their post-purchase survey on your order confirmation page. Helps them out, helps us out, helps the whole world out as we push out these fantastic threads from Section 119. And I'm getting a little hot with this thing on. It's toasty. It's warm. So thank you all for hanging with us here as we went through our initial presenting sponsors. This was a fun opening bit here. We are going to jump into the meat of this episode with our first segment, talking about MSG. And I want to pose a question to the two of you. And before I do that, just anyone out there in podcast listening land, if you have any thoughts about MSG, if there's any particular shows that have stuck out to you as like great moments that you've been to or you've heard from Phish MSG history, please throw them into the chat. We would love to hear them. But Megan, I want to start with you. You are a resident New Yorker. What does MSG mean to you, and what does it mean to Phish?
To me, I think this is a home game for Team Phish. This is like when they are at their home court, and they've played there more times than they've played anywhere else. They've played there 64 times. So that's not including the times that Trey has played there with other with other people, but Phish has played there 64 times. So that's more than any other venue. They played at the front 53 times, Nectar's 46, Dick's 33. But I think that Madison Square Garden is where they truly feel at home. I mean, Trey lives in New York City, and all the others are kind of loosely based in the Northeast. So it's kind of an easy trip for them. You know, they probably stay at like the same hotels every time. I think that familiarity, playing at the same venue, it really allows them to take risks and go big and go kind of deep with what they're putting forward. I think that like the level of production that they're achieving at Madison Square Garden is just really incredible. And I think that's because of their relationship with the venue and also, you know, with the management. You know, they obviously have a really great relationship with the management at MSG and the Beacon. I also think that there is just something about the people that work at the Garden, and they really like Phish fans. Like, they are awesome. They are so generous and kind to Phish fans when we're there, and there's just like such good vibes. They're always got like pins on, and people are like giving them swag, and there's like this whole kind of vibe, and a lot of them are fans because of these runs, which is so fun. Like, you talk to some of the vendors and they're like, yeah, you know, like I've been bartending here and now I got into Phish because I've been hearing them from these shows. And I think that's just so cool. There's just such a kind of a good vibe every time at MSG. And I also think it's the biggest venue in the country, right? It's the biggest room. So I feel like conquering this room means that Phish, they made it to the top. And I think setting up their residency as they do at New Year's Eve, and of course, what we're going to talk about a little bit, the Baker's Dozen, that really put their stamp on it. I think when they raised that flag, the Baker's Dozen, that was a moment that kind of solidified their standing in rock and roll history, I think.
I love that.
Yeah, you kind of touched on what I wanted to get into there, which is the fact that when they first got there, that was a peak, that was a mountain to climb.
Mm-hmm.
And just to get there, just to play one show at MSG, that's huge. I mean,
Totally.
It's like the Carnegie Hall of much bigger places or something poetic like that. No, but it is. It's really like, you know, the one of the most important arenas in the world. And we'll get into some comparisons and things later on. But it was obviously a goal for them. It was a huge deal. And they climbed that mountain. And what do you do to top that? Well, obviously you come back and play multiple nights and sell out multiple nights and then do it again. And then something like the Baker's Dozen. And then you beat Billy Joel eventually because he probably will have to stop playing someday, as we were saying earlier amongst ourselves. You know, that's the thing. And you're absolutely right as well on your first point is, I mean, Trey lives in New York City. That is home. Phish doesn't really have, like, you know, everybody thinks of Phish as being from Vermont. Of course, that's where they started, but they'd never truly had a place like that in the Northeast proper. You know, Boston Garden didn't really do it for Phish. Like, they had some shows there, but it never caught on as the place for them. I think they shut it down, built a new one or something up there. I don't know, Boston, that's a whole other town. But the point is, the MSG is like, it's the spot, and they kind of own it. It's kind of great. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, you both said so much about it. I mean, one thing that comes to mind is there's such a conversation right now in America about your place of work. And are you a remote worker? Do you work in an office? What does that signify about quality of life and about, like, you know, the type of work that you do? And I think it's really interesting to think about a band that, like, you know, Trey has the barn, and like when the band wants to get together and rehearse and record, the barn is a place where they can go to. And, you know, it's a type of place that probably very, very, very minuscule amount of fans have ever seen or ever experienced. It's something that we just kind of know eternally as a place for them. But beyond that, like, if Phish is going to go out and do their job, which is to play concerts for people, it's going to be one venue in one city, the next night or 2 nights later, another venue in another city. Maybe they do a 2-night run. Maybe they do a 3-night run, as they do in certain parts of the country. But, in reality, their job is consistently on the road. They don't have a home office that they go and play in, and that is what defines them. Aside from kind of MSG, it's kind of their place, as you were saying, Megan, like Trey has a house there. The guys stay in, probably they have like a deal in a really nice hotel that they are familiar with, that they know the staff there, that's near restaurants that they like to go to. I imagine Paige comes with like a couple of printed out Yelp reviews of particular coffee shops, restaurants he wants to check out while he's in town. Mike, I'm sure, has his shoe shops that he goes to. Fishman, has a couple of bars he likes to, sock shops he goes to. Fishman has a couple of bars he likes to jump in and out of, where he sees like cool little like weird blues bands and whatnot. Like they probably, it's like for any of us who are from out of town, you come to New York and suddenly there's this adult playground of restaurants and bars and music venues and cool areas to walk around. And for them, it's become this, tradition. They go there every winter right after Christmas. They have played now, they played a 3-week run there. And so it kind of feels as close as you'll come to like the home office and like the headquarters of Phish, if you will, where they go to this venue and everything just kind of works. They know where the coffee machine is, they know the people who are letting them in, and they walk on stage and there's no thoughts, there's no questions whatsoever, other than we're walking on stage and we're playing in the Garden. We know the people who are going to be here, we know the way the room sounds. And not only is that the venue for them, like Jonathan was saying, they never really had that until, let's call it 10 years now, when like MSG really became Phish's home court. Not only do they have that type of venue, you kind of want that as a band, this like place where where all the cracks are, all the sound, like what the sound is like there. But it's Madison Square Garden. It's a venue that any international act that is touring America has to play Madison Square Garden to really feel like they've made it. Any band that's on their way up, that really takes themselves seriously and wants to level up as a band from a financial standpoint, from a distribution standpoint, from just like, their known quality, around the rest of the world, has to play MSG. It's just one of those venues. And so for Phish to have that be their home venue, it kind of adds to the aura of like Phish being the worst kept secret in the world. Like we all know all this stuff about it. We all talk about them constantly. We have friends who like this is a part of our lives. But, the larger mainstream media is not necessarily talking about Phish. But, oh, by the way, they can sell out 13 straight nights at Madison Square Garden. Just the weird dichotomy of this band exists in this venue.
It's so weird that that's the case. It's so weird that Trey can walk around New York and it's not even a big deal. He doesn't live that kind of life that like a big celebrity in New York would live. It's so interesting. And I think it's also, Trey loves New York. Like I think, he spent the pandemic there. I think he just has a real soft spot for New York. He would go there as a kid. And I think, the music scene in New York is really inspiring to him. And I think that living in New York is really hard. And it sucks a lot of the time. There's a lot of just crap you have to deal with. But getting on the subway and going to MSG to see Phish is one of those moments when you're like, yeah, this might be worth it. Like this is so awesome. So thank you, Trey, for making it worth it.
Well, let's talk this. So we wanted to talk about not only what does this venue mean to Phish, and I want to thank really quickly before we jump into this next segment here, Noah, for shouting out the Gin Peak from 12/30/2015, a classic MSG moment where the band, coming off of one of their best years, plays this shoegazy bathtub gin that is one of my favorite jams the last 5 or 6 years. We wanted to talk about 3 runs at Madison Square Garden that we did not touch on through our historic march through Phish's 12/29, 12/30, 12/31 shows. That is the 1996 run, the 2009 run, and the Baker's Dozen. The 1996 run is really interesting in the sense that Phish conquers MSG. I say interesting can go multiple ways.
You bet.
Phish conquers MSG in late 1994 and plays this crazy Tweezer, plays this amazing Wilson, plays this, show in the middle of an excellent New Year's Eve run that now they have played MSG. They've reached this kind of new level. Where do they go next? Well, they come back the following year. They play 1230 and 1231.95. 1231.95, as we talked about, may be the best non-Big Cypress Phish show that there is. We can get into the nuances of how you track that. But then they play MSG just 2 random nights in the fall. And fall 96 is I don't know if I'd say controversial, but it's kind of an underwhelming Phish tour. It's Phish in transition. There's amazing moments. And if you really want me to go off on a soapbox, I will gush about November 1996.
Do it. Go ahead. Just take it. Like I give you, I'll set the timer and you go ahead for like 60 seconds.
Yeah, I love these timers.
It's the rough edit of 1997, and there's so many great jams, so many great sets in November that fly completely under the radar because everyone focuses on 97, but you really hear the Remain in Light sound almost immediately as they move into November. But a couple weeks earlier, in October, they play these 2 shows at Madison Square Garden. And they're Phish shows.
That's technically correct.
That's technically
sure
what do you guys kind of bullet point thoughts on this 96 run?
I'm not a guy who listens to a lot of 1996 Phish on purpose. I think it's telling that the jam chart notations for the first night involve Trey on the Mini Kitten Simple. Okay, cool, interesting, unusual. And the fact that Possum is played like at a different key.
I love the jam chart notation. It's so sarcastic.
Right.
Here's an odd one. The entire song is played in a different lower key. Go figure.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's telling, right?
So good.
It's almost as telling as when you go, well, we'll get to there's another show that we're probably going to touch on here this episode where there's like 0 notation in the jam chart. That's kind of telling too. But we're not there yet. Yeah, so these shows, I mean, they look okay on paper. And I think they are okay. It's not like Phish was playing bad in 96. It's just that they were not at this moment quite popping off, as the kids say. Do the kids say that anymore? Curtain and Runaway Jim opener looks banging and certainly
not the right
fun
crowd to assure you.
Yeah, and probably
Clueless.
is pretty cool. And I don't know. Then there's the Buddy Miles, Merle Saunders sit-in.
There's like so many sit-ins on this tour. There's a lot of
so
people.
They were
horns
big
and
time.
harmonicas and dancers, and it's there's a lot of things happening.
In 1996, they were the famous rock and roll band Phish. Everybody wanted a piece of that.
It's really weird because I saw like a majority of my 1.0 shows in 1996. I saw 16 shows that year.
Wow. I saw 0, which
did you?
Well, I had a baby.
Yeah,
in
you were
June, so
in that place. Yeah. It's weird. I mean, it seems like when I think about those shows, I mean, I had a lot of fun on all of these tours. Like I saw Sacramento, LA, and that famous Vegas show in like late November, early December. So it was, like a month after these MS shows, but it was also after Remain in Light. And I feel like they were playing a little bit differently after that.
They were.
Yeah. And I think that like, it's almost like a bridge, this tour. It's like, kind of between like early mid 90s when Trey's leading the jamming. And then there's like these groovy jams they dabble with like after Remain in Light when they're all kind of like working more together, which obviously they develop masterfully in 97. But when I was there, I was just never analytic. Like I was totally just immersed in it and just, enjoying the shows and having
just
fun.
Immersed in it. Just having a blast, man.
Just having fun, man. Like just going to see Phish,
Of course.
like dealing with all my drama because I was 19, whatever. But I think that listening back, it's like, it's interesting. I mean, there's some good moments. I think that like, the I think this on the second night, the mic swept away steep into Weekapaug is pretty cool. Like there's some good moments. It's pretty rocking that mics, and I really like swept away into steep. There's some interesting stuff. This Freakapog is pretty weird. There's like some weird YouTube footage of that, and it's just there's a lot going on that stage.
There is. I mean, I look at this, and the thing that like makes me want to, well, I'd like to hear Talk. God, I'd really love to see them play Talk. These are the kinds of things I miss from '96, like
totally
acoustic mini stage songs like Talk, Swept Away Steep, and things like that. It is a very pre-Halloween '96 show, or pair of shows.
Isn't it weird that they were playing like so differently, like a week later? I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah. Well, it's
like it's all bottled up.
It's bottled up, and it's part of the reason that I love the immediate post Halloween shows is you usually hear the band shift and like not only have they presented something that's been kept a secret from all of us, so now that's off their chest, that's off their shoulders. They don't have to worry about not stumbling into a song from Halloween, especially if they're going to play a cover album and you may know what this is, but also playing it live will inform the way that they're going to play going forward. The thing that's always interesting to me about this period of Phish, and it's like this 2-week stretch from October 15th when the tour launches to essentially Halloween, when the tour changes drastically, is it kind of gives you a picture of who Phish would have been had they not gone through the 97 reinvention. Like it's elements of 1992 to 1995 Phish, just not as exciting. You get these classic Phish songs in second sets. Your Rebas can be in the middle of a second set, and it can be like a traditional, like Reba is always going to be in the middle of a second set type of thing. Whereas now it's kind of a shocking moment. Down with Disease is the second song of the second set on 10/22. Does not jam. It's a great Disease. It's got a really good peak, but it's kind of just the last period where Phish could showcase their songs in the second set rather than be expected to come out and jam. And so it's kind of this, I don't know where Phish goes if they continue to be this band going forward. And it almost seems like this Weekapaug groove, the Freakapog, it kind of taps into what we were talking about last week with like New Year's Eve shows, where it's like the band wants to utilize the show aspect of New York rather than the musical aspect of New York. And you get that in this Weekapaug.
Which is weird and fun,
which is weird
and cool. But it's not a Halloween show. It's not a New Year's show. It's just random incident. And perhaps if they had never established the New Year's tradition at MSG, this kind of thing would have happened more there for other appearances, because it's always the show, jazz hands show side of things, from Trey in particular, was always there, and it was always going to be there, and it was going to have to come out at some point from him, either with more musicals or just different Phish. And so this is a good example of it happening.
It's a really good point, and we're going to jump ahead to 2009, because it's a really good point you made about if New Year's Eve, or as we'll get to the Baker's Dozen, were not like, if the New Year's Eve run did not become when Phish played MSG, they would have probably played MSG on a regular touring cycle as they came through the country,
like every other band, right?
Like every other band
on that scale, right?
And I'm not privy to the information of the touring planning of late 2009, but as I remember hearing at the time.
Why not, Brian? You really should have had that ready for today.
You didn't email.
Well, now that I have the robe, they give me deep insights. No, but as I remember hearing in 2009, they hadn't planned the fall tour when they announced coming back, and so MSG 2009 was already booked. I don't know who played MSG 2009. I know 2008 was My Morning Jacket, but they played Miami that year. And so their MSG return was in early December, which I remember a ton of hype and a ton of buildup because it was a 3-night run. They end essentially the tour. They play one more show in Charlottesville, which seemed like
I was there. That was fun.
It's
Don't
a good
knock it.
show.
I'm coming for you if you do.
Come across the country, man. I'm right here.
No, it's
I'm waiting. I'm waiting.
Look, Charlottesville's
like
not
a
that
heavyweight.
random when you recognize that that's where their management is based, and you
Right.
start to notice that a lot of people managed by that organization have shows in Charlottesville.
And so that was where the tour finale was. But they play these 3 shows that kind of showcased a lot of where Phish was at in 2009, but also showcased kind of the challenges of Phish playing just a random tour stop at MSG. It seems like New Year's really fits them. Really quickly, what are your guys' thoughts? Megan, what were your thoughts on the 2009 run that, as we talked about before we went live, you could not be at for a variety of reasons?
Yeah, I wasn't listening to a lot of Phish. I was listening to them, but I wasn't seeing a lot of Phish then. I had a 1-year-old and I was pregnant again. So I was really just doing
Good
a
reasons.
bunch of boring stuff all the time. Yeah. It was not planned. I haven't listened to a lot of 2009 Phish. So it was cool to go back and listen to some of this. It's not my favorite Phish. I think there are some moments that are cool in these shows. I think the Down with Disease on the second night is just really soaring, pretty energetic, blissy peaks. I really like that Down with Disease that opens the second set on the third.
I love that version.
That's a really, really good Down with Disease. And then I really like the You Enjoy Myself that closes out the second set on the last night. I think that it's just like a joyful groove. It's like really energetic, really dancey the whole way through. And the vibe seems like it was great. That whole second set of the last night on the 4th, I thought flows really well and had some nice moments.
Yeah, I usually have issues with the ratings on Phish.net, and I think they're maybe just only slightly inflated because of the, recency bias of when people were marking these off and, not putting them into broader perspective, right? So 2009, I contend, does, with certain exceptions, and there are many exceptions throughout the year, doesn't have a lot of replay value. It's Phish working their way back to being Phish.
Yep.
I saw a bunch of shows that year. I had a blast. I saw that Charlottesville show, as I mentioned, and I did not see these. I had a bunch of friends who went to these, and they had the best time. But that time was as much as anything about all of us being together, and in this case, they were at MSG, and how
you're
great
getting
is
to
that?
see Phish again.
Phish at the Garden, and it was the old Garden before the renovation and
Yeah.
everything, and these shows are fine. They're very 2009. They're very much of their time, just like the 96 shows. They don't bust out into anything particularly mind-blowing. I mean, there are some bust outs. I mean, they play the first Peaches in some mathematical amount of years, 10 years. And they
I love when they play that song.
yeah, it's great. And the Disease is really good, and then You Enjoy Myself also very good. And Light, I think there's a light in one of those shows. That's
night
pretty
one.
First night?
Really, really
it's
good.
night one. Yeah.
That's pretty.
And
Goes into
and
Slave,
Light
really
was
nice.
like the song for that year.
Yeah.
So I feel like I saw one at Charlottesville too. They were playing it a bunch and doing something with it. And so not bad. If you're gonna, go see Phish for 3 nights somewhere, I think you would have done yourself just fine by doing that in 2009. Is that a rave? I don't think that's a rave review, but I didn't knock it, did I?
I think you guys,
No,
I think you're
that was
both being
fair.
accurate. I think it's, it's interesting that I can only speak from my personal experience. I got into Phish in the hiatus, as I've said, and their return show was at MSG, which, at that time it was maybe their 10th show at MSG. Like it wasn't, I don't have the math exactly on me right now, but like they hadn't played a ton at MSG. It felt like an accomplishment whenever they would come back there. And so they play that 02 show, Trey plays a couple of solo shows there, like opening up for Tom Petty, playing New Year's with the Black Crowes.
The comeback for the hiatus was the 13th Phish MSG show.
Wow.
Assuming
Wow.
I almost ran out of toes, but I got there.
There you go. But then they don't play MSG as a band until 2009. They never return there in 2.0. Obviously, the breakup happens. They come back. And I just remember throughout 2009 being online. Twitter had just launched. I was still on another Phish forum site that sounds like Schmanishy Schmoor. There was all this hype generated around Phish going back to MSG. And I remember being like, I don't get it. I knew the MSG 95 show. My favorite Phish show of all time happened at MSG. But I was kind of like, it's not, I don't know, like, is it really that historic of a venue? And obviously, we've seen so many shows, and we'll talk about this here in a second. The Baker's Dozen happens at MSG, but I just kind of remember in 2009, personally being a bit perplexed. And then they show up there and they play these 3 very 2009 shows, as you guys have discussed. And it wasn't until the next couple of years that I was like, okay, and when I went to MSG finally in 2012, where I was like, I get it. You walk into this venue and you just kind of feel like rock royalty, even from a fan perspective, because it's so well laid out. The staff is amazing. You walk into the arena and like the ceiling looks like you've seen it in rock documentaries and on, NBA on NBC games where they, it has this vibe to it. And then the band comes out and they play, at another level. So this 09 run, I agree with all of your highlights. The only one I want to throw out is the first tube, which is one of those brilliant moments that doesn't fully come across on tape, but every single person I've talked to who was in the room says that it was a transcendent and life affirming experience. And it's one of those things you would have loved to have seen. I want to pivot really quickly because we're going to talk about another big run at MSG here, but I think it's going to take us longer than 2 minutes to cover the Baker's Dozen. So I want to take a quick break, have us all tell you, listeners out there, thank you for hanging with us, about our presenting sponsors. Megan, would you like to tell us about our first presenting sponsor here?
Sure. We want to once again inform you that HFPod on Tour is proudly presented by Shift Genuine Cannabis, which is based and sold in Brian's home state of Colorado. Shift sells flower, pre-rolls, cartridges, and concentrates. So visit shiftcannabis.com to learn more.
So if you've been hanging with us here, you're like, and you came in after the first ad reads, you're probably like, who is that guy wearing that just amazing robe that clearly says he's a Phish fan, but says he's a Phish fan in comfort and, dare I argue, style?
Luxury, my friend.
Luxury.
Yes.
Luxury is the word.
I mean, I'm just like sitting back here, just bring me my croissants and my coffee and let me get my holiday day started. All of this, not all of this, but all of this can be yours through Section 119. We want to take a second here to shout out our second sponsor, Section 119. They are running their biggest holiday promo ever, their biggest promo ever. You can score up to 30% off for the holidays. Visit section119.com to check them out. Find cool gifts for your wife, for your husband, for your brother, for your dad, for your sister, for your niece, your nephew, your cousin, whoever, your best friend, podcast co-host, whoever it may be. You could even treat yourself. They won't ask those questions. It's just 30% off. It's amazing. Section119.com.
I'm going to tell you all about our good friends at Sunset Lake CBD. Sunset Lake CBD is a farmer-owned business that ships CBD products directly from their farm to your door. For years, Sunset Lake was a Vermont dairy farm producing milk for Ben & Jerry's ice cream. You all probably heard of them. In 2018, they diversified and started growing hemp for CBD. With product for everybody, they offer pre-rolls, hemp cigars, hemp flowers, as well as tinctures, gummies, CBD coffee, crafted to help with your stress and aches and pains. I use their hemp salve. for my hands. And Sunset Lake CBD saves you money by shipping that high quality CBD product directly from their farm to your door. Visit sunsetlakecbd.com and use the promo code HFPod for 20% off your purchase. That's sunsetlakecbd.com, promo code HFPod.
I'm glad to know, is that pronounced salve? I didn't know if it was salve or salve. I never know how to pronounce that.
It's salve, or
salve.
some might say balm if you're in a Seinfeld episode. But that's salve. Yeah, there you go.
Salve.
Yeah. What's next,
Beautiful.
Brian? We're going to get to there's got to be another important run or something at Madison Square Garden. And it's obviously when Led Zeppelin filmed The Song Remains the Same, right?
So that's a great transition, because we've been talking about these 5 shows that happened in transitional years. I guess even better of a transition in Phish's history. Phish plays MSG. They do these 4-night runs in 2011, 12, 13, 15, 16. And they're kind of like, okay, where do we go next? And they do this amazing thing where they combine the history of the Grateful Dead, where the Grateful Dead would pull into these venues and play 10 shows there over like a 2-week period in time. And they combine the just magical nature of the holiday season, where Phish pulls into Madison Square Garden and plays 4 shows and caps off this new year. And they even said, hey, we're going to conquer these off-holiday runs that we played in years past at Madison Square Garden and turn a random 3-week stretch in the middle of summer into as close to the holiday season as Phish fans could anticipate. And that is, of course, the Baker's Dozen of summer 2017. 13 shows at Madison Square Garden, 3 weekends of 3-night runs, and 2 Tuesday, Wednesday, 2-night runs, which to my mind and my ears kind of capped off where Phish was going as they built back from 2009 onward. You could debate, and I don't know if we need to here, but you could debate the merits of 2015 versus 2017, but like the size, scope, jamming, creativity, set listing that they'd been kind of hinting at across a 8-year period in time peaks over 3 weeks at the Baker's Dozen. And
I want to interrupt you because I want to ask everybody who's watching to jump under the comments and give us their favorite Baker's Dozen moment, so we can get to those here in a couple minutes. So sorry,
Yes.
Brian. I just think that, give everybody a chance to think of it, plug it in, type it in to the internets, and and carry on there.
Please. No, that's good. The only thing I was going to add is that it put them in a position where they transitioned, and everything that I would argue that we've heard since the Baker's Dozen has been a direct reflection of what the Baker's Dozen was, kind of in the same way that everything post Big Cypress for a while was this response to Big Cypress. Did I get it all? Did I get anything wrong? What are you guys' thoughts here about the Baker's Dozen?
I think you covered it. Let's move on. No, I mean, it's so.
I didn't say no repeats. No repeats.
Yeah, right.
Not a single repeat across 3 weeks.
It's everything you said and so much more. Like Metallica talked about it in one of their weird like sound check videos where they used to like stream their sound checks backstage, and they're just shooting the shit and talking about it. And of course, they don't get Phish. They throw them a little respect, but then the offhanded must have been a lot of covers. Well, it was covers. They did do covers. Sure, but they got a lot of material, Metallica.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they
didn't quite perceive what happened here. And I think that nobody really can if you're not dialed into what Phish does, because it doesn't seem like, oh, they played 13 shows. Well, fine. Pink Floyd played blah, blah, blah. But, Pink Floyd plays the same set every night. Metallica doesn't. I will give them that much credit. They didn't just play different sets every night. They shaped around themes. they coordinated an element with the fan experience by partnering with Federal Donuts to give donuts to fan audience members, and they entered and played the theme that connected to the donut. And like, who does that? That's just awesome. I mean, it's
someone who
wacky.
loves their fans. Someone who
Right.
loves their fans.
Exactly.
And wants to create like this language and this dialogue between the band and their fans, right? Like the inside jokes that just grow from these type of experiences are just
same people who build the festivals in completely random points on the map. Not completely, actually. I think they're kind of strategically placed out of the way points on the map and build like little wonderlands for the fans. It's those people, those same people who they care about their audience in a way that few bands of this scale care. Because and you hear them say it, Trey talks about it, it's this connection that they are continuing to try to build. It's not just so we keep buying tickets, though. It's because they genuinely
want
to share this experience with us and build something bigger than just a group playing a show. Because they could get away with just doing that. I mean, the Dead, barely, they had a kind of a nice light show, but it was pretty laid back. They didn't wear any costumes. They barely even talked to us, and they built a nice little thing. Phish could do that, and we'd still go. We'd still love it, but they always want to go higher.
Yeah. I love what you said there, Megan, and I want to just emphasize it and expand on it, because you think about a pre-Baker's Dozen Phish universe versus a post-Baker's Dozen Phish universe. There was a lot of conversation and communication between Phish and the audience. And Jonathan, you were talking about that. Like, there were decades of things that we could point to of, oh, Phish loves us. Phish is like one of the best bands at connecting with their audience. The Baker's Dozen introduced all these rhythms for 3 weeks that, I don't know about you guys, like, it was really hard to transition to that first week or two without the Baker's Dozen. Like, it's always hard when Phish tour ends and I'm like, oh man, I don't have a couch tour to look forward to. I don't have another Phish show, a new Phish show to listen to. Kind of got to get back to just like normal rhythms of like life. But like, I still remember standing in line at a Nordstrom's. I don't even know what I was buying, but I was like standing there waiting to purchase something, and my friend texts me and he goes, oh my God, they're going to release a donut before every single show. It was that Friday, the 21st. It was this like part of the show that like I hadn't even considered. And it became this rhythm of like, wait, when is the donut coming out? What's the donut? Oh my God, what are the cover songs that they can play? And it just highlighted the entire night. And I want to shout out listener Jacob Moreno, who said the best moment of the Baker's Dozen for me was when the jam-filled donut was announced. Also the Chalk Dust Peaks. That jam-filled donut, they played, it was the only one that they released following a show. So they played the Sunday night Red Velvet show and they released jam-filled. And it was one of my favorite moments to be in like the digital Phish universe, because everybody lost it collectively. Like, what does this mean? Are they going to play a single song? Are they just going to jam for 2 hours? Like, what is going to happen here?
Yeah, those like hours of conversation between the donut announcement and the first set, right, were so exciting. And I was only at a handful of these shows, but paying pretty close attention. I was involved in the podcast of some kind, I think, and of course listening to all of these things and on Twitter, and we'd be like, oh my God, coconut, what are they, what the hell song has coconuts in it, and we got there, we found a few, but then they opened with Shake Your Coconuts. Somebody called that. I'm sure somebody called that, but like, really? And Strawberry. Some guy said Strawberry Fields Forever on Twitter, and everybody was like, come on. No.
And they come out and they played a cappella.
Right. I mean, what the hell? And I could run the list and I won't, but I mean, it's just that was so exciting. and then the music was good. Like Phish is playing pretty well in 2017. My recollection of the shows that preceded Baker's Dozen is virtually nil. I know they happened. I can't remember what jams were worth a damn or anything like that, but I remember a lot about what happened at the Baker's Dozen, and I mean, they played so well.
This is totally the run that like reinvigorated me. I felt like I had, been a little bit removed. I had seen them like once a year, kind of in the last 7, 8 years or whatever since they got back together. And when this was announced, I was like, this is just so epic and such an unbelievable thing to take on. And I was so inspired by it. And I went the first night and I went one of the middle nights, the maple night. And then I was like, I have to be at the last night. And I went on like one of those like crazy rabbit holes with like someone I had just met once who was like willing to go with me. And like, we just did whatever we could to get tickets. And like, it was one of those like crazy moments where I was like back to being 19 again. And I was like, I have to see this Phish show. I don't care what happens. And I just feel like that moment when they played You Enjoy Myself and like the build up to that first week, it was just like, I've never felt anything like that in my entire life. Like the whole entire building was just bouncing, and just like the release of that energy of just built up was just so phenomenal. And I was like, okay, I'm back in like 1000 fucking %. I'm back in. And like, it was awesome. I'm so impressed with them for this. And it was just like you're both saying, it was just so exciting and inspiring, and you just never knew what was going to happen. And like everything was tied in together. I mean, like it was just, the universe is a donut. I mean, they thought of everything. It was so cool. So cool.
Do either of you have a favorite? And if so, a favorite show of the Baker's Dozen that kind of like encapsulates it? Was it Glaze Night for you, Megan?
Yeah, I mean, I think the last night was just the anticipation and the build up. I was so excited about it. And I feel like the energy in MSG had been amazing every night. But that night, it was just like totally amazing. And I just felt like the encore, was so good and emotional. And watching that banner go up, it's just a moment that I feel really glad I was in the room for. But there are so many good shows in the Baker's Dozen. I mean, it's hard to pick, especially there was like leading up towards the middle. There was just some, I mean, starting at Jam Filled, and the next few nights were just, I think, epic.
Yeah.
I might pick that one too. I don't think I have a favorite though. I was there for that one. I saw Cinnamon, and I saw, I don't know. I should have done my homework. I don't know. What was the other one I saw?
I think we saw the same. I saw the
Lemon,
chocolate, cinnamon, and Jimmy's Night that weekend.
Yeah, I didn't see Jimmy. No, I did a couple like hit. It came in for the. I did the final weekend, and I did like a Saturday night or whatever for. We did an HFPod live, and I saw that show that night fun. Too, and but like, I think the jam. Was it the simple jam on the 8/6 the last night? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I swear Paige started to walk to the theremin. I was sitting right behind Paige, low behind the stage.
And, oh my God, so was I. That's so funny. We might have been really close.
And he probably were. And he started to walk over there, and then Trey started playing Rise Come Together. And I was like, fuck, God, I need some theremin in my life. The only thing that can make me unhappy in the entirety of this whole thing is the fact that Paige turned around and walked back to his keyboards. But that was amazing, and I was definitely crying as they played On the Road Again.
Yeah.
And it was, and laughing my ass off when they did Lawn Boy Reprise.
So good.
Yeah, that was. I'll go with that. But I reserve the right to change my answer at any other time you may ask.
Yeah, I always go back to Powder Night.
Yeah.
I love the set list. I love
Powderfinger. Come on.
I mean, Powderfinger is, no matter what band I'm seeing, I want them to play Powderfinger. It's just like, it doesn't matter. It's like a top 5 song of all time for me. And like, I don't want to head down too far of a tangent, but like I had a chance to go to Jam Filled and Powder Night. I was leaving a job, and for whatever reason I put in my final day to be July 26th, which was Powder Night. And I wasn't thinking about this sort of stuff at the time. And when they announced the Jam Filled Donut, my wife was like, just go, we'll meet you in New York, because her and my son, we were all going up for the second weekend of the Baker's Dozen. And I was like, no, I got to be a good employee. I got to finish out strong. I don't want to blow them off. I've got one thing I've got to wrap up. And she was like, it doesn't matter. Like, just go.
Yes.
And I was like, no. And then, of course,
right.
she was so right. I was like, how good can Jam Filled be? Really?
God, that cross-eyed and painless. Oh,
they open up with Sample,
so
and I was
good.
like, they fooled us all. They're not really gonna like.
Totally.
It's just gonna be a total joke. And I was like, I won. And then they fucking jam out Sample and John and Lawn Boy. And like 20 minutes in a Lawn Boy, I'm like, what did you do? So anyway, but I had those shows like a sore spot for me, but also like I can't deny their brilliance. And that second set of Powder that then ends with Powderfinger is one of my favorite things the band has ever done.
Brian, real quick, as a man who's been fortunate to be married for 21 years, let me tell you very clearly, your wife is smarter than you. Listen to your wife.
Yeah, she rocks.
All right.
She knows what she's talking about. She was right. And I will say though,
anytime your partner says go to a Phish show,
just go to a Phish show.
You pack your bags.
Go to the show.
Go.
You've been given. Yeah.
You've been given the pass.
I will say though, like one of the things that was amazing about that run was, you know, at that time, if you think about 2016 Phish, they still weren't jamming with like as much consistency as they are now. And it kind of took this stress of like, are they going to jam off the table? Like I remember at Double Chocolate Night when they started playing Chalk Dust, the entire crowd looked at each other like, this is going to jam. Like, we just know it. It's the second song of the second set. And it goes off into this I Know You Rider peaking amazing jam that I just, I absolutely loved it. It was amazing. I think we could talk about the Baker's Dozen for a long, long, long time. And I want to shout out really quickly Noah, who recommended a song I heard the ocean sing, which was another one of my favorite moments as well.
One.
Before we close down here, really quickly, we're going to do rapid fire. We've talked for almost an hour about Madison Square Garden and the brilliance of Madison Square Garden. Megan, is there another venue, a comparable venue that comes up for you from a Madison Square Garden standpoint?
I think it'd be Dick's. I think they love it there. I think any place they set up like a mini residency that they go back and play just killer shows at really often. I think that to me seems like I've always wanted to see a Dick's run. Like it seems like just so much fun. It seems like a place they really love. Phish loves Dick's.
Phish loves Dick's. And as a resident here in Colorado, I will agree with you. Dick's was my pick as well. It's the only other venue that now is like based around a holiday and has like its own thematic year to year carryover. What about you, John?
I'm just going to go ahead and say Hampton. Phish loves Hampton. I love Hampton. Hampton is an old building, no amenities. It is the opposite of Madison Square Garden. It has, you're lucky they take a credit card at the merch and at the, like I don't even know how they do it. They must have really good Wi-Fi for those people, because there's no way there's wires running to all those stands to buy your sodas and your beers. And it's all GA. It's
amazing.
It's concrete floors and it's small, and nobody should go. Just stay home and wait for your local show or go to Dick's or whatever. Just leave it to us Virginia people. It's not big enough for you anyways. But that's they like to play there. They pick it for a reason. And
it's the mothership.
I will always go.
I'm going to go there once. I've never been.
I really want to go there once.
Even if I have to take some Virginian seat just for, those 3 shows, I'm going to do it.
I want to do it too. Sorry.
It's
Jonathan.
a good call though about Hampton, because we may or may not be talking about Hampton in the very near future, as it's adjacent to New Year's Eve. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but we may be doing that. I think those are all good picks. I think, I would just quickly throw out Alpine, Deer Creek, the Gorge. Bill Graham has kind of become this way. These are all venues that like have a vibe. SPAC, they have a vibe to them. So before we close down, one last question for you all. Jonathan, what is your favorite MSG show?
How much time you got? No, it's a 12/31/95. There's no question. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to talk about it because we've talked about it. Everybody knows. You have it on CD. You've got it on your iPhone. You got it on your iPod. You got it on your Rio MP3 player. You got it on your record
all the
shelf.
Devices.
It's sorry, great show, best show maybe. I love it.
Megan?
I mean, I don't want to steal yours, Brian. So in an effort to be different.
Do it.
Do it. All right. I mean, it's obviously 12/30/97. Like that.
Yeah, my favorite show is 12/30/97. No, go ahead. Sorry.
It's just it's the best. It's the best Phish show, and it's the best MSG show. But I will say, second for me really is that 3.0 20/30/19. That is a really, really good show.
It's a great pick. Yeah, 12/37.
Second over 12/31/95. You don't have to answer that. I don't want you to get in any trouble. So you just think
for
about
real. All right, I'll think about it.
She didn't want to take your answer. Yeah. She didn't want to take your answer as well. No, yeah, 12/30/97. That's it. That's the Phish show for me.
It's okay for you guys to be wrong. It's fine.
Someone has to be.
I think in our bonus segment, we are going to talk about all the Phish shows of MSG that we haven't talked about. No, I'm just kidding. I think we did a justice here to the non-New Year's Eve Phish shows. And I hope that everyone out there enjoyed our march through 96, 09, and the Baker's Dozen, and kind of just like this testament to what MSG means to Phish and to all of us. We will be back for one final live episode before the hopeful New Year's Eve run that is going to happen here in about a week. We're going to be talking about our 2021-2022 MSG wishes. What are the bust outs we're hoping for? What are the jams we're hoping for? What are we hoping to hear from the band as they wrap up this really challenging, but just in the Phish circle, fascinating and incredible year of Phish. So we will see you right back here on Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Before we do that, Megan, want to take us out with our first ad read?
Yes, we want to remind you again, HFPod on Tour is proudly presented by Shift Genuine Cannabis, which is based and sold in sunny, beautiful Colorado. Shift sells flower, pre-rolls, cartridges, and concentrates. So please visit shiftcannabis.com to learn more. Thank you, Shift.
And we would also...
Hello, cool Brian. Well, back to the mic.
Seriously, heavyweight Brian Brinkman. Where's your belt?
Said what?
We would also like to tell you about our second presenting sponsor, a knockout sponsor, if you will, Section 119. I'm wearing a Section 119 robe right now. This was my first Christmas present for all of you who are jumping in late. It's like the most comfortable robe I've ever had in my entire life. And it also tells people, because I need more people to know, that I am a Phish fan.
And you see a lot of people when you're in your robe, right?
I see a lot of people. I just keep the door open and I hang out with my cup of coffee. This is the Magnaball Tweezer Caspian. Thank you, Mike Hamad. And my robe. And I'm like, hey, do you like Phish?
Guess who I am.
Do you like going to see the same band hundreds of times? Let's be friends. This is what we can be friends over. I've actually made friends with the neighbor because their dog had a donut collar. I'm not sure if it was Section 119 or some other, but we're going to talk about Section 119 before we close the show here. They are running their biggest promo ever. 30% off for the holidays. Visit Section 119 to check them out. Find cool gifts for your wife, for your husband, your brother, your dad, your best friend, maybe someone you just like met on Twitter and you're like, hey, you seem like a cool person. I want to buy you some cool gifts for Christmas. Buy him something like this. to let them show the world that they are a Phish fan as well. Section119.com. And with that, we're going to sign off here. We'll see you back in the same place, same time, different day, Thursday, December 23rd at 3 p.m. Eastern to talk about MSG 2021-2022. Thanks, Meg. Thanks, John. This was fun.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, guys. Bye.